What's up? Hi. Okay, I just need to jump in and do this video because I keep like thinking about it, and if I keep like thinking about it as much as I have, then I'm just gonna like stress myself out even more. Where to begin? This video couldn't like have come at a better time, like the idea of it, because Malaysia's elections happened super recently. It is May, so it's Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. I knew it was 4 words long. And finally, oh, I'm doing a new show this weekend with some of my Asian American friends. So it really couldn't have come at a perfect time. I saw that Jenn Im had uploaded a video on what it's like growing up Korean American last week, and I kept meaning to watch it. And as I was working out yesterday, as I was on the treadmill, I watched it. I was just like, whoa, I need to do one of these videos. I tried to YouTube Malaysian American. I purposely left out growing up because I just wanted to cast the net wide. And so far I've only found like 1 or 2 other Malaysian American YouTubers. One is the Malay American guy, and he addresses himself as the American Malay guy or the Malay American guy. His channel will be right here. And then we have Steven Lim from BuzzFeed. I found out that he was like, what, Malaysian Chinese? Like a few weeks ago I was watching Worth It, and there was an episode where he had breakfast somewhere, I think, and then he thought it would be like something that his mom would make. So he called his mom in the car, and I heard her speak English, and I was just like, wait a second, because like you just like know like the Singaporean and Malaysian accent, it sounds like super similar. So I just like quickly googled Steven Lim, and turns out he is of Malaysian Chinese descent, so that was pretty exciting for me. So let's get into these questions. I am Malaysian by nationality and Chinese by race. Malaysia is one of those countries where when you fill out a document, they have a slot for nationality where you put like, okay, Malaysian, and then they have a slot for race, and then you put like what race you are. The main races in Malaysia are Malay, Chinese, and Indian. And my accent's gonna break like when I talk about Malaysia. Of course, like 99% of the time when I talk in English, I have an American accent because I don't know. I spend most of my time here growing up. 1% of the time, if I'm talking about something that's like Malaysian, my Malaysian accent will like come out a little bit. Some, I guess, minorities in Malaysia. We have a solid Japanese community. There's some Eurasians, and we definitely have Caucasian people living in Malaysia. My friends that are Caucasian that live in Malaysia are normally of some sort of like direct European, New Zealand, or Australian descent. None of them I know are American. And where I'm from in Malaysia is Penang. Penang is one of the states of Malaysia. It's made up of an island, and some part of the state is on the mainland of Malaysia. The island is off the west coast of Malaysia. I'm from the island part, and it's exactly what you think an island would be like. It's very tropical. There's jungle, there's beach, but it's also one of the most urban places in Malaysia too. So there's a lot of city and things that are being built up and changing, especially since it got its UNESCO World Heritage recognition years ago. A lot of things have been changing. It's been getting a lot cleaner, and honestly the cleanliness used to be part of the culture shock for me going back home, because it would be so different, like the cleanliness in the US versus in where I was in Malaysia. What generation am I? I'm the first generation. I was born in Malaysia, and I moved here when I was 4 years old. I moved to the Bay Area in California when I was 4. I went to college in Massachusetts, and then now I'm down here in Southern California. We moved in the beginning because of my dad's tech job. We were supposed to stay here for about 6 months in the US. 6 months became 2 years, and it just kept going from there. Okay, so I grew up in the Bay Area, well, as in the US. And Malaysia, Penang itself is also, Penang and the Bay Area are both really mixing pot like places, so they're quite diverse. I never really felt that I knew there were other people that looked like me, basically. But of course I felt that more when I went back to Malaysia. Malaysia, I didn't feel so special. But I think you guys are asking for like, oh, like what experiences did you feel different or like isolated? I do remember a few when I was younger, and they're not gonna be as like nightmarish as some people's experience I know are like their moms pack them like a certain lunch, and they brought it to school, and like their friends were just like, wait, what is that? That's so gross, and they would get embarrassed by it. But I was lucky enough not to go through that. I mean, I sort of did in like 5th grade. Basically what happened was that I brought a snack that had dried anchovies and peanuts, which is ikan bilis. That was the terrible pronunciation. Ikan bilis. It's a really good savory snack because it has like protein, a lot of protein in it, and it keeps you full, and it's tasty, and we serve it as a side on some dishes. This snack was from actually a Japanese market, but it had traces of dried anchovy whole and roasted peanuts in it. So I got really excited because when people, especially if you're like a child of an immigrant or an immigrant yourself, you eat a snack from your home country and you're not there, it kind of like fills in a place like in your heart that like no other food can where you are. But I brought it to school, and of course, since it's like a dried whole fish that I'm enjoying, I kind of knew that I would be made fun of. So whenever I brought it out, my friends would notice, and that I would just be like, I'm eating a whole fish, like it's dried and it's gross, but look, here goes the head, and I like eat the head by itself. And they would just be like, you're so weird. I think there was one person that like really called me out on it, and he was like of South Asian descent. I'm not gonna say Indian because I'm not sure. And he was just like, ew, Cai Ping's eating fish. Like, and this is like, you know, the first break you have in school. If you go to public school in the US, like you have that first morning break. I was eating it then. And he was like, and it's like, Cai Ping eats fish in the morning, like all dried and like gross. And I was just like, yeah, I do, because it's good. I think I felt more different actually going home. Going back to Malaysia. We went back to Malaysia for about 2 months every single year growing up because, you know, my family still has their house there. And I remember once in the car, I was with one of my cousins. So my cousins in Malaysia, some went to public school where Malay is taught heavily, and then some went to international school, which is sort of like private school. There, in a lot of international schools around the world especially, it's a mostly American taught. One of my cousins that went to public school and one of my cousins that went to international school in the car with me in the back seat. And they were just like, so a lot of kids that go to international school sometimes don't know Malay as well as the ones that go to public school or like normal government school. Okay, we were all talking about something, and then my cousin goes, the one that went to international school, she goes like, she says a phrase in Malay, and then my other cousin laughs about it, and I'm just like, wait, what does that mean? And then she goes like, you don't know what that means? And I'm just like, no. And she was like, how can you be Malaysian if you don't know what no means? And I was just like, well, it's a really hard thing to answer because like it's something that you can't help. Yeah, it was kind of awkward because you don't feel isolated every single day, but there are just like some moments like that where you don't feel Asian enough or Western enough in some situations. And then there was like this time at a hawker stall. Hawker stalls are basically like food carts, and they all gather in like a market, and it's great. But anyway, I was trying to order something, and when I order stuff in Malaysia, I either use my different dialects of Chinese or I ordered it in English, and I chose to order it in English this time. And of course, when I spoke English, my American accent was very prevalent. The person who was working it didn't understand me once, and then I repeated it, didn't understand me twice, and then she was like, oh my god, this ang mo. And I was just like, first of all, I was born here. Ang mo in Hokkien, it literally means American, but it's sometimes used in a derogatory like form, like this outsider. And that, I don't know, it feels kind of weird hearing that like coming from like home, you know what I mean? What people like refer to as home, if you're not just like an Asian American, people ask you, oh, like where are you really from? And it's just like, I associate both places with home to an extent. When I was back in Malaysia for like the summers and stuff, my cousins would introduce me to their friends, and actually my grandma would actually introduce my whole family to like her friends as like, be like, oh, this is my cousin from America. And I'll just be like, yes? You kind of want to go back and be like, I traveled like 27 hours to get back to where I came from. Like, I was born here. Oh, this is my cousin from US. And I'm just like, okay, well, actually, I was born here. I've always said that I was born here, and then I moved, and then I come back every summer because that's exactly what happens. Because people say like in like a certain friend group here, I feel like I'm the Asian. I don't really get that feeling, but when they go back to where their mother country is, they'll be like, oh, I'm the American. That I can really relate to. People definitely, when I was doing like my internships or was basically like socializing with my cousins or their friends in Malaysia, they would definitely see me as the American. Were you always proud of your heritage, or was there a time you rejected it? I don't really remember a time where I like rejected my Malaysianness. I always grew up, I think my mom always made sure that I knew I was born in Malaysia, duh, and came here when I was 4. And that Malaysian culture definitely like runs through my blood. And even though I feel mostly American, I got really confused in college though, because I know a lot of my college friends are gonna watch this, but like, and it's not your fault. College was a time when a lot of my friends from Malaysia, their siblings would come to college with me, because Penang at least is a very small island, but is heavily populated. And so you know people, even when you go out like marketing or something or to the mall, you'll know someone by like 3 degrees. I once rented a car with my mom in Connecticut, and the woman who rented it to us was Malaysian, and we could tell. So she asked us where we were from, because she could clearly tell from us too. And we were like, oh, we're from Malaysia. And she was like, oh, which part? And we say, oh, we're from Penang. And then she's like, I'm from Penang too. And we knew we were going to be related somehow. Turns out that her mom goes to church and is friends with my grandma on my mother's side. A lot of my friends, like their family members who are my age, started to come to college in the same area as me. And we would hang out sometimes, which was pretty cool. But they would hang out a lot more with each other. And I felt like it was because they weren't inviting me to hang out with them, because they couldn't connect to me on that Malaysian level. Like I wasn't Malaysian enough to be invited to hang out sometimes. And it became a huge identity crisis, because I was just like, do I try to hang out with my Malaysian friends, or do I hang out with like my American friends that I'm used to, like for most of the time I spent growing up? I got really worked up about it, and I remember telling my Malaysian friend, who was like the closest to me in college, Beijing, if you're out there, hi. I remember telling her that I didn't know what to do. She was like, the thing about all you like ABCs and Asian Americans is that like you're both and you don't realize it. I'm like, yeah, I do realize it. I never fit in anywhere, like completely. And she's like, well, just realize that you have the best of both, even though you won't really fit into one. So I guess that's what I'm stuck with. What are some stereotypes that you struggle with? The general Asian American stereotype that I struggle with is the stereotype that all Asians are supposed to be good at math and science. Honestly, music, art, and English and languages were my strongest subjects in school. And I had to work twice as hard in math and science to just keep up with everybody else. I really remember in kindergarten, like everyone would be out at recess and I would still be working on 2 + 2, just trying to figure out why does 2 + 2 make 4. And I remember I would always be let out to recess late because I would always be stuck on math problems, but reading came really easy to me, and so did spelling. I could just hear it in my head and see the words. And because I spent so much of my time studying for math and science just to make, like what the grade, sometimes I didn't even make the grades I wanted, and I would like study like twice as hard as my friends. My friends would always see me studying, like my classmates would always see me studying, and they'd be like, they'd think I would be like super smart or something. And I remember one of my friends in bio, we were in the back and we were taking an exam. He was like, do you want to cheat? And I was just like, not really. And he was just like, but you're like super smart. You're like always like studying and you must know what to do. I'm just like, no, I'm studying because I suck at this. That stereotype really, like, that's the one that really like affects me. Everyone thinks grades in Asian households are just like number one, and yeah, my parents really do set that bar really high. If I got something that I didn't want, I would just take it so badly, and I still do that sometimes. Like I would get like a mark that I didn't want, and I'd be like, oh, even though I worked so hard for that mark, and I'd be like, it's still not this mark. I still can't change myself to get this mark. Grades, man. Grades kill us Asians, like seriously. The other stereotype that really gets me is a Malaysian stereotype, and that is speaking several languages. So Malaysians are really multilingual. We speak different languages depending on who we're talking to. I kind of really like learning languages, and so I've picked up some languages, the basics of some, sometimes for like work or for fun, and I would try to practice them speaking with people that are like around that speak that language, like around here. Because this place is so diverse. California is so diverse. And they'd be like, what are you doing? Like, why are you trying to speak Japanese to me? Because like, because I just want to, and you know it. If you try to speak like different languages, like in Malaysia, like no one cares. Like they don't think like it's cool. They don't think like you're trying to be like someone. They don't think like you're Korea boo, weeaboo. No, they just think like, she's just trying to speak different languages. But here, if you speak like a different language or someone, especially if that person is of like the same generation as you, they're just like, as me at least, my generation, they're just like, what are you trying to do? Can you speak your language? Yes and no. So Malaysia, as I said, is made up of like several different languages. The national language is Malay, and that I am the worst at. I know phrases to get me by, but I don't really know sentences. How I learned how to count to 4, for example, was the local aquarium. My favorite aquarium, Monterey Bay Aquarium in California, in Monterey Bay, California, had 4 Southeast Asian river otters that were on loan, I think, from Singapore Zoo. And their names were 1, 2, 3, and 4 in Malay. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 were their names. And I think people were like, oh my gosh, their names are so like foreign and like cool. But it really just means 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's how I learned how to say 1, 2, count to 4 in Malay. I speak Hakka Hokkien because of my parents, because my dad speaks Hokkien, which is very prevalent in Penang. It's a Chinese dialect, and so he mixes that in with English. My mom speaks Hakka, and she mixes that in with English. It's to the point where she has become comfortable with my friends hanging out at my house, and she's just speaking in both languages to me, and I'm just like, Mom, they don't understand you. You have to speak English only. And she would just be like, but I'm comfortable like this. And I'm like, okay, never mind. Mandarin Chinese, that is probably my second strongest language. And it's because my mom heavily insisted that my brother and I learn Mandarin in school, to the point where she sent us to elementary school where about half of our classes were in Mandarin Chinese. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't understand it at first, because this is going to sound really snobby to some people, but my mom would sometimes use being monolingual as a threat to me and my brother. She just really didn't want my brother and I to miss out on being multilingual like people were in Malaysia, like how kids were in Malaysia, like how they would speak Chinese to each other in school and learn English in school, and they would speak Malay to like someone outside. She would be like, oh, you just want to speak English like all those kids out there? You don't want to speak Chinese and like open more opportunities for yourself? And I was just like, no, like, because sometimes it would get hard. It would get hard balancing math and Chinese and math and English. I'm definitely really thankful though that I did learn Mandarin Chinese growing up, because I use that ish every day, like at work, and trying to find more work, for sure. Being multilingual definitely has inspired me to take on more languages, and because when you try to learn more languages, you kind of like build a bridge in like connecting with more people, and that's really fascinating to me. It has definitely had its pros and cons, being Asian American and affecting my relationship with my parents. The hard part is that, as I said, I was stronger in like languages growing up and art growing up in school, but I was interested in working with animals. So the road to being interested in working with animals was very math and science heavy, and that was really hard for me. But then I always knew that I had a creative side, hence the YouTube. I don't know, I just got more into like making like videos and like being more crafty, and so I'm currently trying to like chase that a bit. I'm currently trying to be more involved in film and videos, video making, producing specifically. If you need a producer, please hit me up. Anyway, so that part has been hard because you know how the stereotype, how East Asian parents don't want like their kids chasing arts because it's unstable. That stereotype is definitely true for me. America is like the hub of entertainment of the world in some aspects. So chasing that industry kind of makes it hard on my Asian side. But in a way, being Asian American has definitely made me more connected with my parents too, in a way that like we'll have like a family conversation back in Malaysia with some of my Malaysian like family members, and they will have a perspective on how to solve a problem that I will have that is very Western influenced, that the Asian side of my family like would not be able to see. And so that's sort of like what has brought me closer to my parents, which is really unique and definitely something I would not have seen coming when I was younger. It's like they understand you. Yeah, no, my parents. What's really funny is that my dad is very, very, very American to the point where he doesn't really like to associate with his Asianness, but when he's pissed, like when he's mad, like all of that accent will drop, like, and he'll be like speaking his like Hokkien. Like my mom really embraces her Asian side for sure. She embraces her her Eastern side, I think, like probably a bit more than her Western side. She definitely has a Western side to her, and I think that's true for a lot of like immigrants, like in their home countries, or children of immigrants, because like you will identify with your like home country, but like it differs per person to what extent they identify with it. How do you feel about your heritage now? Do you identify with it? I do identify with it. How I feel about it now is pretty good. Especially after college. I think college is when I felt the worst about it. I've accepted that I'm never gonna be truly home somewhere. Like I can't completely associate a place with home. Kind of learned to like represent the best of both, have fun with the best of both worlds. Hannah Montana reference right there. Instead of just feeling incomplete with both. What's your favorite thing about being Asian American or about your heritage? I mean, having the best of both cultures is always a plus. Honestly, the best part about being Asian American is just like being open to more cultures, I think. And just like being able to connect with more people, because there are similarities and differences between the Asian cultures. Just like being able to connect on some things that are common, or being introduced to things that are different and sort of giving you a new perspective. That's really cool. Also, the food is bomb. Like, I'm just gonna leave it there. I like being Malaysian because like I think I'm very lucky in that I'm part of a culture that is super diverse and open to new cultures. Honestly, like if you listen to like the Malaysian like Spotify top 50, it's Chinese pop, Western pop, K-pop, and like there's some Bollywood and Malay songs in there, and it's just like it's so much fun. That diversity is pretty lit in Malaysia, especially Malaysia's music. It makes me more like open to different music genres too. It just opens more doors. It's kind of crazy. So that's it for the questions. If you guys want to know like a little bit more about what Malaysians are like, because we're pretty funny and easygoing, there's some awesome YouTube channels that are by Malaysians that are shot in Malaysia. I mean, they travel too sometimes, but you know, I think my favorite, if you guys like skits, my favorite Malaysian YouTubers are Jenny Boy TV, Dan Koo Productions, and The Ming Thing. If you guys like beauty, Carice Ao is my favorite. She also vlogs too. Her vlogs are really nice, and her challenges are really funny. And who else do I like? Ooh, a vlogger. So he doesn't vlog. He used to vlog daily, and they were so awesome. His vlogs were like, his daily vlogs were lit. Very Casey Neistat. Sean Lee. He's a beatboxer, and who used to daily vlog, and his videos are pretty cool. So just a lot of Malaysians, but apparently not a lot of Malaysian Americans on the internet. Okay, so that is my, what is this tag called? I feel like this is the growing up, like insert Asian country and then American tag, like right here. Yeah, and I guess I'll tag some channels to do this tag. I just like really enjoyed like seeing different people's perspectives. Thank you so much for watching and like sitting through this whole thing. So yeah, see you guys in my next one. Bye. There we go. Okay, as I said, I was stronger in English, math, in English. This took so long to film, and I have water here, but my voice is just like going. Penang is a very mixing pot culture, and so is the Bay Area.